A trucker in Pennsylvania just rolled past 4 million miles in a vintage rig from the 1970s, original engine, original frame, still hauling freight 5 days a week. Try that with a 2026 truck and the emission system alone will bankrupt you in 3 years. These 10 vintage machines weren't just built tough. They were built when mechanics could fix them with a wrench instead of a laptop, when steel was thick, and when warranties meant the truck would still be running in 1.5 million miles. Number 1. The Diamond T921. Let's start with a truck so beautifully overbuilt that Chicago craftsmen called it the Cadillac of trucks. The Diamond T Motor Truck Company was founded by C.A. Tilt in 1905. The Diamond stood for quality, the T stood for tilt. From the late 1940s through the late 1950s, Diamond T produced the legendary 921 series, a conventional cab heavy-duty truck that became one of the most respected vehicles in American freight history. The 921 series was originally available with 4- or 6-cylinder engines, but the most desirable configuration came with the Cummins NHC 250 inline-6 diesel paired with a Spicer 5-speed overdrive transmission. Later restorations have shown that 921 chassis can easily handle modern Cummins C-Series 8.3-liter diesel engines producing 250 horsepower. The truck featured front and rear air suspension long before this became standard, allowing it to deliver light to heavy loads at speeds up to 70 miles per hour. Diamond T was famous as an assembled truck. They bought engines, transmissions, rear ends, and even cabs from outside suppliers, then put them together with custom sheet metal work and final assembly. The same basic cab used on the 1957 Diamond T 921 FN was also used by Mack and International in the mid-1950s. Why does the 921 outlast modern trucks? Because Diamond T built about 250,000 trucks total over their entire production run, and roughly 90% of them are gone. But the ones that survived have been running for 60 to 70 years on original frames. A 1951 Diamond T 921 was recently restored by Legacy Classic Trucks after spending years in a ditch. The frame and structural components were still perfectly sound after decades of neglect. Try leaving a 2015 truck in a ditch for 20 years and see what happens. The body panels rust through, the wiring corrodes, and the electronic control modules become irreparable. The Diamond T 921 was built to be saved. Number 2. The White Road Boss. White Motor Corporation produced the Road Boss from 1973 until 1981, and the truck immediately earned a reputation as one of the most reliable and practical heavy-duty trucks of its era. White designed the Road Boss specifically as an upgrade to their existing 4000 and 9000 series, with enhanced durability and serious performance. The genius of the Road Boss was its wide fiberglass tilt hood that allowed cooling radiators up to 1,400 square inches. That's an enormous radiator capacity, big enough to keep the largest diesels of the era running cool under brutal loads. The standard engine was the Cummins 250, but buyers could choose from 10 optional engines ranging from 230 to 350 horsepower, including various Cummins, Caterpillar, and Detroit diesel power plants. White paired the Road Boss with a Spicer automatic transmission for easier operation, while the steel cab and heavy-duty frame suited both long-haul and vocational work. Engine mountings were moved forward to allow a shorter wheelbase. White also upgraded the electrical system with a 40% stronger cranking motor and a more efficient alternator with a built-in regulator. These weren't marketing claims. These were real engineering improvements that made the truck more reliable in cold weather and heavy use. Why does the Road Boss outlast modern trucks? Because White was building trucks with no concept of planned obsolescence. The frames were heavy, the cabs were steel and could be repaired with welders rather than replaced as entire units. The Spicer automatic transmissions were mechanical units that could be rebuilt indefinitely. Australian operators in particular kept Road Bosses running in outback service for decades. White went bankrupt in 1980 and Volvo absorbed the company in 1981, but the trucks they built before that bankruptcy are still working today. The factory parts ecosystem may be gone, but the trucks themselves refuse to quit. Number 3. The International Transstar 4300. In 1971, International Harvester introduced the Transstar 4200-4300 series as their flagship heavy-duty conventional. This replaced the older Transstar 400. which itself was an update of the D400 from 1961. The Transstar 4300 was the extended hood version of the new series, with a hood long enough to accommodate the biggest diesel engines of the 1970s. The base engine for the long hood Transstar 4370 was a 230 horsepower Cummins NH inline-6 diesel. But that was just the starting point. Buyers could order their Transstar with the Cummins NTC 335, the Caterpillar 3406, or, most insanely, a 434 horsepower Detroit diesel 12V71 V12. The truck was paired with Fuller Road Ranger manual transmissions ranging from 5 to 16 speeds, with an optional 4-speed auxiliary transmission for extreme heavy hauling. The Transstar 4300 featured an all-new cab that replaced the older Emeryville cab from 1957. The standard cab was steel, with an optional aluminum cab available for weight savings. International also offered an optional Eagle Browham luxury interior and exterior trim package for owner-operators who wanted to make a statement on the highway. Why does the Transstar 4300 outlast modern trucks? Because the truck was engineered when International Harvester was vertically integrated and still proudly American. The proprietary cab design, the rugged frame, and the simple mechanical engine choices all worked together as a system. A 1971 Transstar 4300 was recently shipped from Ohio to the Netherlands after being restored. The frame, after 50 years of service, was still perfectly sound. The Cummins 335 was rebuilt with all new parts and now looks brand new. Modern Internationals are great trucks, but they cannot be restored to brand new condition 50 years later with original components. The electronics simply don't last that long. Number 4. The Brockway 359 Husky. In Cortland, New York, the Brockway Motor Company built trucks from 1912 until 1977, when Mack shuttered the plant. The Brockway 359, instantly recognizable by the Husky hood ornament rather than Mack's Bulldog, was one of the most durable severe-duty trucks ever produced in the United States. Brockway was founded by George Brockway, son of carriage maker William Brockway. The company built 587 Class B Liberty trucks for the military during World War I. During World War II, Brockway manufactured the B666 heavy truck, the B666 Daybrook M2A bridge erector, the C666 quickway crane, and G547 and G696-ton 6x6 bridging trucks. By the time Mack purchased Brockway in 1956, the company had earned its reputation as a builder of custom heavy-duty trucks for the most demanding applications. The Brockway 359 was equipped with various engine options, including Cummins inline-6 diesels and Detroit diesel power plants. Some models came with gasoline Hercules inline-6 engines fitted with Rochester 2G carburetors. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power famously operated a fleet of Brockways into the late 1970s, complete with their distinctive grille guards, vehicles working in California, even though Brockway had virtually no West Coast dealer presence. These Brockways earned their keep on water utility work in conditions that should have destroyed them. Why does the Brockway 359 outlast modern trucks? Because Brockway built trucks to military specifications even for civilian customers. The frames were derived from World War II bridge erector designs. The cabs were assembled with wooden framing in some models, but the structural components were industrial grade. When the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard No. 121 mandating anti-lock air brakes hit in 1977, combined with tightening regulations and labor strikes, Mack made the corporate decision to close the Brockway plant. But the trucks Brockway built before that closure are still earning their keep. The town of Cortland still hosts an annual Brockway festival. The Husky badge represents a brand that died but built trucks that refused to. Number 5. The International Loadstar. International Harvester produced the Loadstar from 1962 to 1978. And these medium-duty trucks remain in active service in farms, fire departments, school districts, and small businesses across America today. The Loadstar was the first purpose-built medium-duty truck designed by International, slotted between light-duty pickups and the heavy-duty R-Series. Available in Class 6-7 configurations, the Loadstar offered gasoline engines ranging from 154 to 210 horsepower and diesel options from 113 to 200 horsepower. Transmission choices included 4, 5, 7, 8, and 10-speed manuals, along with 4 and 6-speed automatics. The truck was available in 4x2, 4x4, 6x4, and even 6x6 layouts. Why does the Loadstar outlast modern medium-duty trucks? Look at where these trucks ended up. Fire departments across rural America bought Loadstars in the 1960s and 1970s, and many of those fire trucks remained in primary service for 40 years. School districts bought Loadstar bus chassis and rolled them for decades. Municipal water departments bought Loadstars and used them to haul gravel and dirt long past the point when any modern truck would have died. The Loadstar's secret was its proprietary International gasoline and diesel engines. The 304, 345, and 392 cubic-inch V8 gasoline engines were comically over-engineered. Cooling systems were oversized, bearings were massive, electrical systems were simple, fuel systems were entirely mechanical. When something broke, you could fix it with parts available at any farm supply store. Modern medium-duty trucks last roughly 250,000 to 400,000 miles. Loadstars routinely passed 600,000 miles in fire service before retirement. Number 6. The Freightliner FLC 120. Here's a counterintuitive truth about truck longevity. Aluminum lasts longer than steel in many trucking applications because it doesn't rust. The Freightliner FLC 120, developed in the late 1970s and produced into the 1980s, was one of the toughest aluminum cabbed conventionals ever built. Freightliner had been pioneering aluminum cab construction since the 1940s, when the brand was first developed as part of Consolidated Freightways. When Daimler-Benz acquired Freightliner in 1981, the FLC 120 was already an established workhorse. 2 FLC 120s were converted to right-hand drive and shipped to Australia in late 1982 for severe testing in some of the harshest road conditions on Earth. One of those original test units still survives today, preserved at the National Road Transport Hall of Fame Museum in Alice Springs. The FLC 120 could be spec'd with Cummins, Caterpillar, and Detroit diesel engines, all paired with Fuller Road Ranger manual transmissions in 10, 13, 15, and 18-speed configurations. The aluminum cab kept tare weight low, allowing operators to legally carry heavier payloads. The bolted aluminum frame components could be individually replaced if damaged. Modern Freightliners are built with composite hoods and steel-aluminum hybrid cab construction. They're optimized for aerodynamics and fuel economy. But the long-term durability of the original FLC 120 design has yet to be matched. Australian operators in particular kept FLC 120s in heavy outback service for decades. Properly maintained units routinely exceed 2 million kilometers. Number 7. The Autocar DC. Autocar stakes the claim of being the oldest surviving motor vehicle brand in the Western Hemisphere. Founded in October 1897 in Pittsburgh, the Autocar DC series, the standard severe-duty conventional cab autocar produced from the late 1950s through the 1980s, represents the most overbuilt truck ever produced for civilian use. Autocars were custom-engineered for specific applications. A brochure from the era proudly declared, "Everything about the Autocar is tough, and everything about the Autocar is geared to unusually harsh, even hazardous conditions." Among the unique models produced were the Autocar AP19T with a V12 Cummins diesel engine, a 30,000-pound tubular front axle, and 200,000-pound tandem rear axles. The combined gross vehicle weight rating reached 900,000 pounds. That's 900,000 pounds, not a typo. The Autocar DC series powered municipal refuse operations, ready-mix concrete delivery, oil field service, mining and logging operations across North America. These trucks were designed to work in cycles where they were started cold at 4 a.m. and run continuously until dark, in temperatures from -40 to over 110 degrees Fahrenheit, on roads that didn't exist. Why does an Autocar DC outlast modern severe-duty trucks? Because autocars were custom-engineered as one-off builds for individual customers. There were no production line shortcuts. Frames were specified for specific gross weight ratings far beyond rated capacity. Axles were sized for loads twice the normal operating range. Engines were chosen by the customer from Cummins, Caterpillar, or Detroit Diesel and installed with massive overcooling systems. The result was a truck that simply could not be overworked because it was already spec'd to handle 3 times the abuse a modern severe-duty truck is designed for. Number 8. The GMC Astro 95. The GMC Astro 95, produced from 1969 to 1987, was widely considered the best-styled cabover of its era. Larry Shinoda, the legendary designer who shaped the Corvette Stingray, is credited with contributing to its styling. But beneath the beautifully designed aluminum cab was a truck built with General Motors' full industrial might. The Astro 95 base engine was the Detroit Diesel 671N. Buyers could upgrade to the Detroit Diesel 8 V71, the Cummins N Series, and starting in 1972, the legendary Detroit Diesel 12 V71 V12. In 1977, the Cummins KT450 and Caterpillar 3406 became options, requiring a larger radiator. Detroit Diesel even developed an experimental gas turbine version in the early 1970s. The Detroit Diesel two-stroke engines that powered most Astro 95s are legendary for their longevity. The 6V71, 8V71, and 12V71 are mechanical engines with no electronic controls. They burn oil, they leak, they smoke when worked hard, but they refuse to die. The military still used 8V92 TA engines in the Oshkosh M911 and 8MTT trucks for decades after Detroit Diesel ceased commercial production. Detroit Diesels can run for 1.5 to 2 million miles before requiring major overhaul, and they can be rebuilt in any decent diesel shop in America. GMC exited the heavy truck market in 1987 when General Motors created the Volvo-GM joint venture. The Pontiac Central Assembly Facility no longer builds Class 8 trucks, but the Astro 95s that General Motors built continue to operate, decades after the company that made them stopped supporting them. That's the definition of vintage durability. Number 9. The Western Star 4900. Western Star was founded in 1967 by White Motor Corporation in Kelowna, British Columbia, specifically to build trucks for Western Canadian conditions. The 4900 series, developed in the late 1960s and early 1970s, became the brand's signature workhorse model, and over 50 years later, the 4900 platform remains in production today, an extraordinary testament to its fundamental design strength. Western Star manufactured trucks in a 250,000 square foot facility in Kelowna, with an additional 50,000 square feet of warehousing. These trucks were purpose-engineered for British Columbia logging, Alberta oil fields, and Yukon mining operations. The combination of brutal Canadian winters, mountain road grades, and oversized loads created conditions that destroyed lesser trucks. The 4900 platform featured a robust steel frame construction designed for vocational and severe duty applications. The truck could be configured as a tractor with fifth wheel, as a bare chassis for bodybuilders, with twin steer for dump and mixer applications, or in lowered cab, low-max configuration for auto hauling. Engine options included Cummins, Caterpillar, and Detroit diesel power plants. What makes the 4900 Outlast modern trucks is the conservative engineering philosophy that has guided Western Star for over 5 decades. The 4900 platform was redesigned and refined over the years, but the fundamental approach remained constant. Build a frame stronger than it needs to be, install components with massive safety margins, use the simplest mechanical solution available, and let the truck work for 40 years instead of 15. Australian operators in particular have a fondness for the early Western Star 4900 because the trucks routinely log 4 million kilometers in road train service before being retired. That's roughly 2.5 million miles in some of the harshest operating conditions on Earth. Number 10. The Marmon Conventional. We end with the most exclusive vintage truck on this list. The Marmon Motor Company built what truckers reverently called the Rolls-Royce of trucks. From 1963 until 1997, Marmon produced hand-built premium trucks at facilities in Denton, Texas, and later Garland, Texas. Production was limited to roughly 100 to 300 trucks per year. In 1973, Marmon introduced their conventional cab model. The trucks were spec'd with Cummins, Caterpillar, or Detroit diesel engines, paired with fuller manual transmissions in 13, 15, 18, and 20-speed configurations. Marmon used aluminum and fiberglass throughout to keep weight down. By the 1990s, Marmon was using aircraft technology to glue their cabs together without rivets. Why do Marmons outlast modern trucks? Because every Marmon was built one at a time by craftsmen who had built thousands of trucks before. The fits were tighter, the welds were better, the wiring was hand-routed and labeled. The frame was assembled by men who knew the truck would be running for 30 years. Owner Ken Matuzak's Marmon, built in 1997 as the very last Marmon ever produced, currently has 1.3 million miles on the original engine. There are documented examples of Marmons running well past 2 million miles on original chassis. The annual Marmon truck gathering draws 15 to 20 Marmons each year, many of them still earning their keep as working trucks. Modern premium trucks like the Kenworth W990 or Peterbilt 589 are excellent vehicles, but they cannot be hand-built one at a time. The economics of modern truck manufacturing demand 50 to 100 trucks per day from each assembly plant. The Marmon model 100 to 300 hand-built trucks per year produced units that simply cannot be replicated by any modern manufacturer. If you've enjoyed this trip through American trucking's most durable vintage rigs, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into automotive history, and tell us in the comments which vintage truck you'd put up against any modern semi for ultimate longevity. We'll see you on the next one.